You're listening to PlayStation Power. This is recording number 2. I'm George, and here with me is Ollie.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks for coming on as a guest.
No problem. I'm delighted to be here. And George just mentioned that this is recording number 2, and it's important to understand that the reason it's recording number 2 is that I am a technical. I'm not sure how to describe this, George.
Twat?
What's the twat? Yeah, I'm a technical twat. Although, being as most of your listeners would have heard by now, I'm not American. I'm Irish, so I pronounce that as twat.
Yeah.
And you make sure you get that solid AT sound at the end.
Yeah. Anyway, Greg's not here with us because, well, there's a few reasons, or a couple of reasons. He is busy tonight, and we are covering a wrestling game, so he does not have too much to say on it. And that is quite alright. I believe he kind of liked the game. That's good. But we are talking about Smackdown. Here Comes the Pain, a game that Ollie has nostalgia for, but I don't, because I actually played the game before it, Shut Your Mouth. I played that a lot as a kid. But the games are somewhat similar in a way.
Yeah, they're very similar in so much as one of them is a wrestling game and the other one is a flawless wrestling game.
Oh yeah, Shut Your Mouth is very flawless. I just
Shut
really
Your Mouth
hate,
is not very flawless.
I just really hate how they moved on to Here Comes the Pain, and it was just a train wreck.
We may end up falling out over the course of the next hour or so.
Is that because I talked about rolling in your own feces before this episode?
It's when you suggested that Smackdown Here Comes the Pain was not a flawless game, and at that point I just said, George is dead to me.
I'm really sorry, Ollie, but the truth hurts sometimes.
Yes, it does.
Anyway, this game was released in North America October 27th, 2003. EU, November 7th, 2003.
And I got it for Christmas that year.
Well then, Christmas was very far away from that release date. Anyway, and surprisingly, Japan got a release January 29th, 2004. The developer is Yuke's, which still develops wrestling games to this day. Especially for, well, just WWE, I believe. But, and the publisher is the now defunct THQ. We already talked about this, but the THQ, I'm not sure about the name, but I know the THQ Logo was bought out by Nordic Games, who took over the MX versus ATV franchise. And they only released one game, technically released one game so far in the series. They released 2, but one was a PC port of a PS2 game, which, well, let's not get into that right now. And the other one was a kind of like a redo of one of the older games that THQ published, and then they added on to it, I believe.
Yeah, I didn't know
graphics and physics and stuff. So
I didn't know THQ was still, or the name was still going, because as I was saying to you guys yesterday,
technically is, because Nordic Games bought. I don't know if they bought the name. I know they bought the logos, so they put the logos on their products that have to pertain with the THQ properties. But I don't know if the name was bought.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if it's just to keep continuity for fans, so that everyone's just used to the title card just showing up, and they're like, "Oh, nope, I know where I am." I
don't remember if they put the THQ logo in the game, but they put it on like box art and stuff, I believe, which was weird, because I was like, wait, I thought THQ was defunct, and then the whole thing was like, I figured this out. I was like, oh no, Nordic Games purchased the logo for some reason.
And you're a fan of the MX versus ATV games, George.
Yeah, we actually talked about this a tiny bit on Facebook chat, because brought up one day that I was playing MX Unleashed, which I found a loose. So I used to buy PS2 games in lots, and some of them didn't come with cases, so they'd just be like wrapped in bubble wrap as loose games. And I was going through them a bit ago, and I found it, and I was like, oh shit, I never played this game. Let me pop it in, and I was like, I'm playing this game, guys.
I'm playing this.
And then it froze after I tried to load a thing. I don't know if it was the PS2 or if the game was slightly scratched, or I don't know. But back to this game. Here Comes the Pain. My thoughts on it. I have very positive thoughts on this game. It's just like there are issues with it. But before we get into final thoughts at the beginning of the podcast, we should probably talk about the game itself. So the thing is, this game is a wrestling game. 2003. This is the whole. This is when WWF turned into WWE, basically.
Yeah, they lost their court case with the World Wildlife Fund, and had to give up the F. And I think they ran promos at the time. I'm not sure if you watched it at the time, but the promos actually were WWE get the F out. And then they just cut off the F off the logo.
I think I kind of remember that. So,
I was a big fan back in 2003, and I used to watch as often as I could.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this whole thing? We'll talk about this. WWF or WWE started as WWF basically in the, I want to say, 80s. It started as the brand. And up until 2002, they were using that, and then World Wildlife Foundation, I think it is, I don't know, was sued them over it, and they lost the right to call it WWF, and it had to be WWE, and they changed it to World Wrestling Entertainment. And what's interesting about this is the way that this works is they are able to use their raw footage that they have, not the show, the footage that is raw.
So previous pay-per-views and TV shows from the mid-90s.
Yeah, they were able to use that footage and still have WWF show up. And if you have the WWE network, you will notice that stuff is not censored. The thing is, when they put it in a new product and sell it, they cannot have anything reference to WWF.
So they have to blur it out?
Yeah, so they blur out the logo, or they edit it. It's weird. They do one of two things. They blur it out or they edit it. And also there is, what game was it? I think it was 2K14. Was like the 30 years of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And what they did was because they were 30 years of WrestleMania is a whole mode where you're playing through like the best matches of each WrestleMania. And they're rebuilding these arenas to be accurate to the arenas that those WrestleManias took place in. And those arenas had the old WWF logo. So what they did was they just remade the WWF logo, but without the F. So it's literally just like the silver W's, and that's it.
Oh, that's very interesting.
So yeah, they have to do stuff like that. And with 2K16 was all this stuff about Stone Cold Steve Austin in the story mode thing, the showcase mode. And they had footage from WWF, and they had to blur it out. Even crowd signs, everything. They had to blur it. They cannot even have people bring up WWF. So
online. Oh,
what they will do is, if someone's announcing a match, they will call the WWE. And if it is a video, they will actually... they will censor WWF, so the audio will be muted when they say WWF, and you'll notice this in the videos that they play for the Stone Cold showcase mode, which is really interesting.
That is genuinely interesting, and I imagine it's an awful lot of work to go back and edit every single one of those every time you want to put one in.
Because you have to watch the content and see if anything pops up, which is insane. Like even crowd
nightmare.
signs. Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare. But anyway, this game. I think that's the second time I already brought it up as this game, but
this flawless game.
Yeah, here comes the pain. There's when you open up the main menu. There's exhibition and there's season mode and stuff like that. And exhibition is just you're able to go and play a match just with whatever wrestlers you have unlocked and everything. And there's things like single, which is just one-on-one. Then there's tag, which branches off into tag matches, usually just two people on a team, and you have to tag your
one from each team at a time in the ring.
Yeah, but then there's also stuff like tornado tag, where everybody fights at the same time, and if somebody's pinned, the whole team loses. And then is elimination in this game? I forget.
There is elimination tags in the match. Yeah,
okay.
You can
I do like
both 2-man and 3-man tag elimination matches.
Right. I don't think I've ever seen this in a game before, in a wrestling game, but I really like tag matches that have like 3 or 4 teams, and then you can tag in anyone. Yes,
they're fantastic. I can't remember the last time I saw one of those. I
don't think that was ever
on
in a game.
WWE. No, it's never been in a game. I remember the last one I distinctly remember from that.
Well, they actually had one. They had one recently. They had one this year.
Oh wow! I haven't kept up to date with. It might
actually
date with that.
It might have been Backlash, or maybe it was SummerSlam. It was very recent. It is. The only thing is, I would really like an elimination tag version of that.
So you'd be purposely tagging in the other guys so that they're taking the most damage.
I thought
fantastic heel tactics.
I thought it would be funny, if like doing like a non-elimination version, but like you would be able to have your teammate tag in. So like, well, one guy on one team is active, and then the other guy on the same team tags in with the opponent, and then he just lays down and he just pins them. And
1, 2,
win.
3, match is over.
That would be like the best storyline ever, because people would be pissed off.
Yeah, the best storyline, or WCW 2000 level of bad storyline, is probably what might end up happening there. David Arquette might get involved.
Oh no, let's not do that. So on top of tag matches, there's also hardcore match, where you're able to use weapons, and there's First Blood, which is I kind of like First Blood. First Blood matches, if you can't tell, it's the first person to make the opponent bleed, they win.
And this was the first WWF game, I think, that featured First Blood. For the SmackDown, first SmackDown game. Yeah, WWE game.
It might have been. I don't remember a First Blood match in Shut Your Mouth.
Yeah, I think it was, because this is the first game I distinctly remember being able to bleed the guy. Now, you were able to cause blood in WWF No Mercy.
Yes.
On the N64. But I think this was the first SmackDown game that actually allowed you to do this, and it was fantastic at the time, and it really added a different element to the kind of title matches they could put on for you, or the kind of storyline matches they could put on in season mode. So it made things more interesting, and able to change things up a little bit. The only real First Blood match I can remember from WWE was Kane's first world title win, when he beat Stone Cold, and I still think it might have been a mistake, because he dropped the title the next night.
Yeah.
Good times.
On top of that, there is a bra and panties match where you play as the women and you try to rip off the other women's clothes down to her bra and panties.
Oh, I believe it's known as the classy match, because it is clearly the match that the classiest of us all would have played. And I was saying to George earlier, just before the show started, or the podcast
that you
started,
played it all the time.
Yeah, I played it all the time. Or more accurately, in the 13 years I've owned the game and played it every single year, I play quite a lot of this, and I would have tournaments with my friends. I've played a bra and panties match a sum total of 1 time, and that was it. So, and I have put easily more than 1,000 hours into this game, and the idea of playing a bra and panties match just would not occur to me. I can't see it.
Right.
It's not even a particularly interesting mode. It's just basically you get to make the person submit twice. So if you're already playing a submission match, you're already pretty much doing that.
Yes, it is just like a submission match, but you have to get 2 submissions.
Exactly.
Technically speaking. There is a lumberjack match, which is really dumb, where it's like a singles match with multiple managers on each side, except they are legally able to beat up the opponent if they were thrown out of the ring.
Yeah, the idea of lumberjack match, I think was either A, to save money on having cages, so it effectively works like a cage match, where the idea is that you can't get out of the ring, because as soon as you get out of the ring you get beaten up. So it saved money on that there, and just to give more people positions on the card. And also it allowed for multi-tag or large tag teams to all get involved while still maintaining a singles feud. So if you happen to be a member of the Fabulous Freebirds, which were a 3-man tag team, Michael Hayes, I hope I get the names right. So one of the Freebirds could be in the ring while the other 2 are on the outside, and they're still technically part of the match. They're still able to get involved. They're still able to do their power moves.
Well, they can't get in the ring.
But they're not supposed to get in the ring. But I mean,
yes.
as long as the referee doesn't drop the elbow, you're pretty much okay to do whatever you want.
Yeah. There is also cage match, where cage is around the ring ropes, and you try. Usually the objective of the match is to climb out, but sometimes there are also times where you can pin or submit an opponent, but that's not fun. You want to climb out.
Yeah, climbing out is the best one. It took me a while to figure out that there are ways to make yourself climb faster, and that there are certain moves that leave guys on the ground for a long time. For example, if you were in a triple threat match and Triple H is one of the opponents, he does a move, a submission move, a leg submission move, which he will, I think his AI is set to prioritize this particular move. So if you knock the other competitor down, and Triple H will come over and start doing this deathlock move, you can climb the thing at your leisure. It's like a 2.5 minute animation for that move. Well, maybe not 2.5 minutes, but
no, but it's one of the longer ones, yes.
And you can literally just climb out at your leisure. There's another move called a running STO, and if you do a running STO and you have a character with relatively high speed, you can literally do one move and then climb out of the cage and escape. So it took me a while to figure these things out, because I used to have great trouble with cage matches. But now, as I was saying to you last night, I think I've got to the point where I can bang through a cage match in under 15 to 20 seconds when it comes down to it. Like,
yeah,
some people.
I still need to get used to the game, but we'll see. I don't think I played a cage match in this game, but it is so similar to the other games that I played around it, so it's like I probably have enough knowledge on it without playing.
Oh, I'd say you would. It's very similar to the SmackDown versus Raw games that came just directly after it.
Yeah, the thing is, like, when you have like a game like this, the game before it and the game after will be similar enough to you can base your knowledge off of some of it. So,
which Just speaking of which, the control scheme changed from the control scheme. I'm sure we'll get into the control scheme in a few minutes, but you were saying to me that you prefer the newer control schemes, the ones that allow you to change your move. I was going to say mid-move, but that allows you to select your different paths using your analog stick.
Yeah.
And I prefer this particular control scheme because it just feels more natural to me. And I just wonder if that's just because I would have played this contemporaneously and then you're coming back to it after getting experience with the other ones.
I don't know. So the thing is, this game works with grapples. It's you choose one of the 4 cardinal directions, and press circle to grapple.
Circle, yes.
Yeah, it changes from some games, from game to game. It's weird, but you use circle to grapple, and you use one of the 4 cardinal directions, and then that branches out to another 4 grapples that you can do, and those are moves that will hurt the enemy. So you were like, they're like grapple states, I guess they're called. So like there'll be like an animation where there's one where the enemy kicks you, and then he kicks you again. You grab his leg. That one's weird. There's one
where they try to punch you and you catch their punch.
Yeah, there's it's like stuff like that. And what you can do is you can either use your attack button or you can use a grapple move against them. But the thing is, with some of the newer ones, there are quick grapples, so you grapple in the 4 cardinal directions, and then I think diagonals are a thing too. Those will just do grapple moves. But then you hold them if you want to get into one of those grapple like stances. You have to hold a button and then move the thumbstick in a direction. And they will get into these grapples that you could branch out into. And then they also added in, you press on the thumbstick, you do submission, and they also added moves where you can grapple an opponent in a specific way, and then you can move the thumbstick down and you'll do a suplex, or you spin the thumbstick around and you'll spin like an airplane spin type thing, or you can push up and you'll just throw them on their stomach. Yeah, I like that stuff.
I find that it added an extra level of complexity, which
I don't think it's really
in one
complex.
way was interesting, but it could just be because I had spent so much time with this and the game that came before it, and probably the games that came before that as well, that it just didn't feel like the Smackdown games to me. I understand that it's much more probably closer to a real life simulation of the game, but it doesn't feel as intuitive, or just face it doesn't feel as fun to me. Well, and if I'm going to play a game like this here, I want to be having fun.
Right. Well, the thing is, I even told you this before, that in the newer games that there are much more moves that you can assign. And well, I think your response was like,
I did not believe you, George.
Yeah.
I thought you were lying to me.
Yeah,
I went
and then you
checked.
tried playing one of the games, you're like, what's he talking about? And then you had to look it up because you did not know that there was the extra grapples that you can do by holding the
I
button.
genuinely did not.
Whoa.
I was sitting there going, George is, what are you, more moves? There's like 6 moves here. And then I realized, oh no, wait, I can do 7 moves from this one position and 5 moves from this position. And there are an awful lot of moves. It just doesn't feel as intuitive to me. But I would be lying and disingenuous if I didn't say the new games are very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, they even added in, you're able to control, like, so what you can do is, in especially the very modern games, the right thumbstick is now used to position your opponent. So, let's say you throw them in, you Irish whip them into the turnbuckle. What you can then do is you can turn them around so that their back is facing you, or you can turn them around so that their front is facing you. You can move the thumbstick up and you will put them on top of the turnbuckle, or you can pull it down and it'll put them in the tree of woe where they're hanging upside down on the turnbuckle, and that actively means that you can do more moves with the turnbuckle instead of the basic 4 that you can do in this game.
Yeah, and I feel there are 4, yeah, if you throw somebody in the turnbuckle, but I feel like we must have a little aside here where we explain what each of these terms we're using are for the non-wrestling fans listening. An Irish whip just basically means to grab them by the arm and swing them and then show them a direction, so you force them to run into a direction.
Yeah.
And the turnbuckle means the corner of the ring. So you can throw them into the corner of the ring and you can climb up and do diving moves, etc, etc, etc. Just in case there's anyone listening who isn't au fait with professional wrestling.
I kind of would have thought turnbuckle might have been obvious. Maybe that's just me.
Oh, if it wasn't for wrestling, I wouldn't know what a turnbuckle was.
Okay, well, yes, the turnbuckle is basically the corner. And you can take the turnbuckle cover off and throw people into it.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing.
Oh, we didn't even finish the match types.
Oh, let's go back.
There's also Elimination Chamber, which I actually like quite a bit. It's not my favorite, but I do like a lot. So Elimination Chamber is, it's a free-for-all, but the thing is, there are 6 literal 6, or is it 4?
There's 4 chambers. 2 guys start in the ring and 4 chambers.
Yeah, so it's 4 chambers. I thought I don't know why, but for some reason for a second I thought there was 6. That's not right. There's 4. There's 4 chambers. Yes, two guys start off, and you get eliminated if you're pinned for a 3 count, or if you give up from a submission or whatever. I think knockouts too. I like to put knockouts on in this game, so I think if you're knocked out,
did you figure out could you do it in season mode?
No, and I've figured out that they disable the option for knocking out until like the later SmackDown versus Raw games, like for like career mode or whatever I think it is, and then in like it's like stuff like 2009 and stuff. I think you could turn knockouts on that, but like it's so limited on the career mode aspect at that point.
Yeah,
we'll get into that when we cover one of those games. But this season mode is pretty in depth. But Elimination Chamber, you get eliminated by the ways that I said, and people come out after a specific time limit, so they'll count down the time, and then a random chamber will open and the wrestler will be able to wrestle.
Yeah, it's 2 minutes, I think, it's in the game. Yeah, it's a fantastic match concept. I think
they still use it to this day.
They still do. I think it was invented by Triple H, and they credited Eric Bischoff with it on screen, but I think it was Triple H who invented the match. And this game is from 2003. The first.
I think this is the first time that Elimination Chamber came out.
Yeah, I think it was, and I think the first actual Elimination Chamber was only several months before this. You said it came out in October?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think the first...
something like that.
Yeah, I think the first Elimination Chamber was either Survivor Series that year or the pay-per-view before Survivor Series. I think it might have been Survivor Series. I know Shawn Michaels won it. Did Survivor Series
turn into Elimination Chamber pay-per-view?
No, Survivor Series is still Survivor Series, I think. But there is an Elimination
Chamber. Did they still do
Chamber
Survivor
thing.
Series?
It might not be. I thought maybe it was.
I thought they retired it, and then I thought basically Elimination Chamber was.
You may be right. I haven't paid as much attention to wrestling as I have a son now, so I don't get as much time to do anything as I used to.
Right.
And stuff like watching WWE, and bear in mind,
and you don't want to get him into wrestling.
I'd love for him to get into wrestling. It's just when he gets too big for me to be able to handle, I don't want to be getting my ass kicked.
Right. Well, I think 3 is a little too young for wrestling.
Oh yeah, he's a little bit young for it just yet. Although he does, he's a little bit of boisterous play. He enjoys it. The other thing as well is it's living in Ireland. Raw and Smackdown are shown live at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Well, I mean.
I'm not a big DVR kind of guy.
Well. Oh well. And so the last three types of matches. So you can't play a Royal Rumble in this?
You can do a Royal Rumble as you mean just as in a random match?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can.
Okay. Yeah, so Royal Rumble that was necessary. Royal Rumble is basically, it could be, what is it? I think it goes as low as 10, but can go as high as 30 wrestlers.
Yeah.
They go into a match, and the objective is to be the last man standing. To eliminate other wrestlers, they have to go over the top rope, and if both their feet touch, they are eliminated. They did some pretty good angles with Royal Rumble, where I remember one of the newer things was one of the wrestlers was thrown over the ropes, but he put his feet on the stairs, so his back hit the floor, but his feet were still laying on the stairs, so he was not eliminated. And then there's older things like, and is even in this game where, oh, his feet touched the floor first before mine, and
the Royal Rumble 2000 finish with Big Show and The Rock.
Yes.
Where Big Show, and there was no TV angle which showed The Rock's feet hitting the floor, so the Big Show was able to justify saying that his feet would have to hit the floor at the angle he came out of the ring, and it would have to hit before Big Show, but the referee gave the win to The Rock, and he managed to the storyline was that the Big Show managed to get himself into the the WrestleMania main event from there, back in the old Attitude Era.
Yes. Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell is kind of in a way like a cage match, but it's a huge cage that surrounds the ring, but there is space on the floor to actually walk around. In wrestling, they're not supposed to be able to get out of the cell, but
they do.
They do anyway. And it's really interesting. So like Hell in a Cell changes over the eras. So like there was a Hell in a Cell where there was a door, and all they would do is just smash the door open. And,
the very first Hell in a Cell was the introduction of Kane, the wrestler, and it was Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, and Kane came down to the ring and just ripped the door off. It was one of the best introductions of a wrestler of all time. And that led to Shawn Michaels winning the first Hell in a Cell match, which I find interesting considering that he won the first Elimination Chamber match as well. So the two big match concepts are two of my favourite match concepts, and Shawn Michaels was one of the first.
There's a rumor going around that he was in bed with Vince McMahon around that time, I believe. So
I've never heard that rumor.
There are literal rumors, and there's actually decent evidence. Like, I'm not saying that I believe it, but there is decent evidence to kind of support that, because they were always seen together and stuff like that around that time.
I genuinely did not know that, and I am completely and utterly shocked.
I really don't think that's a thing, because there's so many rumors that go around for the WWE, but there is evidence that kind of supports it. So take that for what you want. Last Man Standing, which is, it's kind of like boxing. So you beat up your opponent, and the way to win is they have to be laying on the mat for up to 10 seconds. So once the referee counts to 10 and they are still laying down, the other person wins.
Yeah, for a second when you said it's kind of like boxing, I had this image of you thinking that boxing involved chairs and ladders, and I was going, what sort of boxing has George been watching?
It's like boxing, because if you get a 10 count,
your 10 count to win. Yeah, it was just the image in my head of, but how would you pick up a chair wearing boxing gloves? What is he talking about?
Actually, you could pick up a chair with boxing gloves.
Really?
Devon, get the tables.
I can't. My hands are covered in boxing gloves.
It's like it's like when they first did the TLC matches and they didn't call it TLC, and it's like they put the ladders up and then they put the table on top of the two ladders. Like I can imagine, I can imagine them just boxing on top of that, and the first person to fall and like break their neck loses.
Oh man, the match concepts back in those days were
that was so good, and now TLC is like,
well, we're in a new era. It's the PG era.
One year it was tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs. It was so stupid. And then lastly, funny enough, is the ladder match, which is kind of like a hardcore match, but to win, you have to climb a ladder and grab a title, or was Money in the Bank a thing around this time?
There was no Money in the Bank back here. No.
Yeah. So you had to
Money
grab
in the Bank.
title.
I think the first Money in the Bank might have been at the 2 WrestleManias from this. So 21 would have been the first Money in the Bank WrestleMania.
All right, cool.
And this is the WrestleMania leading up to 19.
Right. So there would be a WWE title hanging from the ceiling, and the wrestlers would try to grab the title and take it for their own, and the first person who gets it off the string or whatever it is wins the title.
Yeah, and now you call it a ladder match. I like to call it a bullshit. AI is taking my title off me. They put me into a 4-man ladder match.
Ladder matches were not that great in this game. They worked.
They are a nightmare to try and win on a Smackdown difficulty.
I only played on normal because I am not a masochist. Although I played this game, so
it's flawless game.
Yes, this flawless game. Would you like to play a little game with me here?
Okay.
Yes. No.
Yes. I will. Yeah.
Okay. I want you to guess the wrestlers on this roster that are dead.
Oh, right off the top of my head, without a list.
Yeah, without looking at anything online.
Okay. Should I share my computer screen so you know I'm not doing it?
No, I will hope you do not cheat.
I will not. Okay. I almost
There's the two obvious.
Yeah, I almost think I could go.
Actually, the three obvious. There's the three obvious ones.
Right. A-Train is still alive, Batista is still alive, Big Show still alive. I'm actually doing this alphabetically in my head.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I know it's bad. I think the first person we're going to get to who's dead is Chris Benoit.
Yes.
And then the next person we're going to get to who has died is Eddie Guerrero.
Yes.
Then the next person who has died on the list would be Hawk from the Road Warriors.
Okay.
Or is Hawk the one who's dead? I think Hawk is the one who's dead, so I'm going to say Hawk. Test has died. I'm trying to think to see if anyone else has passed on from that list. Or any of the other legends. Has anyone else died? No, I think, is that the end of it? Or do we have anyone else who's passed on?
You're missing two.
One
of them should be obvious for you.
Oh my god, I'm trying to think. And when you say obvious, it's probably going to be.
I'm surprised you knew that Test was dead.
Oh yeah, Test. I really like Test. So
okay.
Having him die, as you were saying to me last night, you couldn't tell him apart from Edge really, and that's what he was. He was like a big muscular Edge. There's an online a wrestling review called
that was in WWF Smackdown that I had trouble.
So Old School Reviews or OSW, Old School Wrestling, they have this concept of my boy or my guy, and Test would be my boy. Like I really liked him as a wrestler. I genuinely can't think of
He died in 2009 from drug overdose. Test.
Test, yes.
Yeah.
It was a bad time around about at the same time as Eddie and Chris Benoit going. You're going to have to remind me of the other two wrestlers.
That was like 2005.
Yeah, but you're going to have to remind me of who the other two wrestlers are that have passed on. And I know it's going to be obvious.
Sean O'Hare.
Oh, Sean God.
That's not the obvious one, though.
No, I was about to say that's not obvious at all.
The obvious one
advocate himself
is Roddy Piper.
I keep forgetting Roddy's in the game.
That stinks that you don't remember
You have
him.
to unlock him, you see. Because he's not available from the very start on the roster. I can't believe I forgot Roddy.
Yeah. Yeah, he died recently.
Yeah, I think it's coming up on a year, just over a year.
Was it he? Oh my god.
Yeah.
I thought it was this year for some reason.
No, I think it might just be coming up on the year. But it might have been at the very start of this year.
There's one of the SmackDown vs. Raw games where Teddy Long, which at the time was the GM of one of the shows, he was
at the time of this game. Like, he would have been a referee.
Yes. He was like, he. There's a point in the story mode where he's like, "Don't worry, I'm gonna call in a WWE legend to help you out," and he's like. He was making rock references, and he was like, "You'll smell what he's cooking," and then it was like, and then it was the day where this guy that's supposed to help you comes out, and the limo door opens, and it's Roddy Piper. It's like the best.
Disappointment City.
Disappointment City. He's a really good wrestler.
Oh, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
And he never won a world title.
Which is a shame, and he, sadly never will.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Although I might actually load it up now and go and make him world champion before I go to sleep tonight.
Oh man, that's great. I might have to play one of the newer games and get him a title.
I can't believe I forgot that Roddy's passed on.
Yeah, no, it's a shame. I forget what happened.
I think he had a heart attack.
That might have been it, because he seemed healthy enough. I don't think he was on drugs. He was
getting semi-regular work with the WWE as well.
Yes, I don't think he was on drugs or anything.
No, I don't think so. He didn't look like a man who was still on drugs.
No.
And of course, Ultimate Warrior's passed on as well.
I know, like
not in the game.
Scott Hall had a lot of problems with drugs, and I think Jake the Snake. Yeah, so it's really interesting. Like, either he still lives or he used to live with Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah, DDP Yoga.
Yeah, and he helped clean both of them up. It's really weird.
Wait, I can't say DDP Yoga without going and pretending I'm Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho?
More cowbell. Yeah, he does it. DTB Yoga has been the sponsor of his podcast for a long time. And
I never got to listen to
cowbell thing.
His podcast, and I really need to.
It's very enjoyable. Not to go into talking about other podcasts too often, but if you're listening to it, it all depends on his guest.
Right. That's like a no nonsense chat about things, I believe.
Yeah, they could be chatting about anything. I mean, he has a lot of musical guests on. Yeah. He has a lot of wrestlers who were around about the same time he was.
Right, I probably just listened to the wrestling episodes.
Yeah, a very good one that I find very interesting. If you listen to either of the ones he did with Triple H or any of the ones he did with Paul Heyman, you get a lot of inside information of the kind of stuff that was going on around about the time of SmackDown Here Comes the Pain.
I would be afraid of listening to Triple H coming on, because I feel like it might be the whole self-promotion thing and trying to hide things. Well, not trying to hide things, but Triple H is somewhat different. He's still Triple H, he's still himself.
His work with NXT, he seems to be a lot more willing to accept smaller guys and accept different characters, and he has been instrumental in bringing in the new wave of Finn Balor, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And he's high on AJ Styles, which is why AJ Styles is currently the WWE champion, which is something I never thought I'd say.
I heard Vince McMahon is not too happy about AJ Styles.
Well, is Vince McMahon happy about anything these days? Maybe the fact he's a billionaire again.
Maybe. But, I have to check those out. Now, this game has a season mode. And you can...
a flawless season mode.
And you can create... I'm ignoring you. And you can create you can create your own custom wrestler, or you can play as one of the roster members and go through a somewhat freeform version of your own story, basically. And this game has stats attached to wrestlers, so it's kind of like an RPG in a way. Maybe not, it is an RPG in a way, but it has RPG mechanics, where there's different stats like strength, endurance, submission, technical, things like that. So, strength, more damage you do. Endurance is, your body durability. Things that aren't obvious are, I think it's like charisma, and that one helps you gain more momentum. Is that in that game? Or
that builds up your momentum meter faster.
And when you fill up your momentum meter, you get a
Smackdown.
Yeah, you get a Smackdown. Smackdown's your finisher.
You were just mentioning endurance, and we should have brought it up a little bit when we were talking about the gameplay. The endurance changed in this game. This was the first of the WWE SmackDown games where you were able to pinpoint limbs, and you had different areas of the body that you could damage. So you could damage the head, you could damage the torso, you could damage the arms, you could damage the legs, and that brought in a certain element of strategy, because if you were, for example, playing as Ric Flair, and as anyone who's a wrestling fan knows, his finishing move is the figure 4 leg lock, which is a leg attack. So you could pinpoint the legs and attack the legs with a good chunk of his other wrestling moves, so that when you came to finally putting on a submission, you had a better chance of getting the wrestler to tap out. If you were somebody who was attacking the head, you could get the head to go red, which was obviously extreme damage, and you could then get them to bleed, and then if you did a strong move on them, there's a good chance you would get the pin out of it. So you're able to really focus on where your damage was, and the more damage you did on a single part, the more likely you are to get your win. To me, as a wrestling fan and a wrestling game player at the time, this was a revelation. It wasn't the first game to do it. There had been other games that had done it, but this was the first game that I had played where it worked 100% in my eyes. So you weaken down a body part and it made submissions easier. You weaken down a body part, it makes pins easier, and then overall damage makes pins easier as well. And it just allowed you to really change the style of play you were going for, which is a fantastic addition. Anything that allows you to change up and allows you to have different characters and different wrestlers that play in different ways, I'm all for in a wrestling game.
The problem is you have to remember where you assign these grapple moves, or where these grapple moves are assigned. And in the newer games, there are new systems, like there's a limb targeting system that you can use that have their own specific attacks or grapples that you can use. But yes, there's a strategy added to this game, because you can damage somebody's legs and get them to red, and then you can do a submission that wears down the legs, and then they can tap out. With submission moves, there are, I believe, three different types. There's a move where you really like squeeze down on that body part, and then you just let go, and that's a submission move where if the opponent is worn out enough, they will just instantly give up. Then there is a move where you initiate the submission, and then a bar will come up, and you will have to try to tap the face buttons as quickly as you can, and try to get it to your side, which will make them submit. And I think this one also has the system where the opponent has to stop a little dashing line into one of the boxes?
That didn't.
Is that one of the newer
come
ones?
until the next one. That's
Okay.
I think that was actually SmackDown versus Raw 2006. They brought that one in.
Okay, so
This one,
okay,
this
you're
has
right.
the two modes.
Right, so it's just those two. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and-
I played
No,
a
it's
bit
okay.
of 2006 a few days ago, so I'm kind of
I
confused.
said
things.
I only know that off the top of my head because I happen to have played this a lot. Yeah, the two
Yes.
submission moves. If you target a limb and get a guy to, for example, just go with a head submission. If you get a guy to red and then put on something like a Tasmission. Now, Tasmission is an automatic submission, which means you have no control over it. You just lock on the move. But if the guy's head is red and you lock on that strong submission, he will automatically tap to it. And then the second one, as you said, initiates
You have
this
to work
button
forward.
mashing game.
Yeah.
And the more damage you have done to a guy before, if you initiate, for example, a figure 4 leg lock and his legs are yellow, you will start with an advantage. The bar will start with the little dot you have to move in the center. If you start with him in red, which shows high critical damage, you'll start with it 3/4 the way towards your side, which is,
Yes.
you only have a short distance to go towards tapping him.
And
which
I'm
adds
very
as
good
you
at
said.
tapping, for some reason.
You must have extremely fast fingers. I find it very difficult to tap somebody on the higher difficulty levels, even on the normal difficulty level.
I'll let
I find
you
that
in on a
quite
secret.
difficult.
So what I do is
Turbo
I move-
controllers.
No. This is raw power. What I do is I actually, because I know these games so well, I will know when I'm going into that submission. So I'll hit
Yeah.
that move, and then I will quickly move my 2 index fingers and middle fingers to those 4 face buttons, the X, circle, square, and triangle. I'll put those fingers on there, and I'll start tapping you like crazy.
Oh,
So
you
even
young
by
people
the
with
time-
you young people with your
By the
very
t-
dexterous fingers, like.
By the time that it gets to the point where the bar comes up, like I'm already tapping away at it, and it just starts going and going and going. Like there are times where I will try to submit somebody who hasn't even really been damaged, and I could probably get the bar maybe halfway depending on submission skill.
Ouch, that is some very fast button mashing.
Well, I mean, I'm using those 4 face buttons, so it's kind of a
don't think
bitch to try to submit me too.
Yeah, well, if you're going that fast, I don't know how anyone's going to submit you.
I usually either get to the, I don't know if the rope mechanic was in this game, but
Yeah,
eventually,
the rope mechanic is,
yeah, eventually, well, they have a thing where if you're close enough to the ropes, they'll have a rope trigger thing or whatever in the middle of the bar, and if you get your indicator there, you will get a rope break, which a rope break is if you're trying to pin or submit somebody and they are within reach of the rope. Well, in the game, if they're within reach of the ropes, it is a rope break, and the opponent must release the hold, or I don't remember if you can hold it in this game, but in some games you can hold it.
It's an automatic release in this one.
Okay, yeah, and they do that in the newer games, which in the modern games, which sucks. They need to bring that back. But in some of the games, you can hold it on, and you will be counted up to 5. If the referee counts 5, you will be disqualified, I believe.
Yeah, that
I
was
never
one.
did
I think that was in the 2007, 2008 iterations where they
It was
really
in 2006
built up
as well.
Oh, perfect. So
Yeah.
they really built up the heel versus face tactics.
Yes.
So you had dirty moves and clean moves.
Right, and the thing is, in wrestling in itself, like the live action wrestling, they will count to 5 sometimes and say, "Come on, let him go," and then they'll let him go because they don't want to send him out for a DQ. But
And every now and then a wrestler will get
4,
disqualified for doing it.
4. Yeah, I don't think there's ever been somebody who's. Well, maybe there was 1 or 2, but it almost never happens. They'll count 4, 5. Come on, let him go, Kurt. Come on. Kurt Angle used to do it a lot. Like, he used to like.
Kurt used to do it an awful lot.
Yeah, he used to push it to 5, and the referee wouldn't. Because there's so much. Like, I don't want to get into it now, but there is so much about a referee in live action wrestling. Oh my god.
You mean the guys who are made out of paper?
Yeah. And they're just it just so happens that they're out when the one guy's pinning them, but then the other guy does like a finishing move on that guy and he wakes up the ref.
Just exactly at the right time.
Yeah. Or one of the refs is knocked out and they're still doing the match, and then a referee slides in across the ring. That's my favorite. Like when a referee
those
just
super athletic referees.
Oh my god.
Did you by any chance try to hit one of the referees in this game?
Not on purpose, but yes, I've hit a referee in this game.
Yeah, you hit them by accident. If you actually focus on them, they will automatically block your move. So effectively, the referees become reversal machines.
I see that.
So if you are focused on them and you change focus on whichever, if you're in a multi-man match, R1 changes your focus. So if you R1, you can focus on the ref. But if you try to actually carry out a move on him, he will block you, and he will block you every single time. And not only will he block you...
I haven't noticed it was every single time, but it was often enough.
You can't carry out a move when you're focused on him. You can carry out wrestling moves on him, and you can hit them.
Oh,
but you have to be focused
if you're focused on them. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're focused on somebody else, you can hit them. It's a valid.
Yes. So this game technically doesn't play freeform. You have to target somebody.
Yes.
And it works good enough. There are in the modern games, it is almost perfected to a point where you don't touch it. Like it has like it's very smart. Guy. Kind of. It's pretty smart about it. So like, if you're walking away from somebody and you're close to somebody, you will automatically target him. But it is smart enough to know that you are still attacking that guy if somebody gets close to you. I don't know how to explain it, but it works. It works pretty good. There are some occasions where I've had some problems, but it is very good. But the targeting in this game works as you would want it to.
It can get quite clunky if you're in a 6-man match.
It is clunky, but
you have to cycle
works.
through all 5. But I mean, once you get used to it, each of the colors represents a different character. So
I don't turn the indicators on, so it's just whoever the wrestler's looking at. I know.
Oh, great! Oh, I like to have the indicators on because I like to go smooth, so I know exactly who I'm focused on.
Yeah, I'll just attack whoever then. So quickly going back to the referees, I love this about the referees. Every time you do a tag match and the tag member, the team member that isn't legal, if they climb the turnbuckle, the referee will throw them off and into the ring on their back.
Yeah, it is very funny, especially if you're using one of the bigger guys. And,
the first time I did it, I laughed my ass off. I was like, all right, I'm just going to climb the turnbuckle and I'm about to... Wait, why is the referee coming towards me? The referee picks you up, literally picks you up and throws you into the ring, and you land on your back.
Especially if you are the Big Show or Brock Lesnar, and you have this little puny ref like throwing you, basically gorilla pressing you over his head to throw you into the ring.
Oh my god, it is amazing. Anyway, oh god, I don't remember where we were.
We were just talking about, we just finished the Controls game, we were about to start talking about the season, and we got sidetracked talking about endurance of the wrestlers.
Right. Season mode is kind of freeform in a way, and it's basically, story mode, and you can build up a story. It is based on your actions, but it is not that free. There's a lot of branching, but so you can play.
It branches quite a bit, but there are still fixed storylines that you're going to be playing through.
Yes.
the wrestlers that you're fighting will change depending on your superstar points, which is one thing we were talking about. You were saying about the RPG mode. So there is a secondary section to the RPG mode. So you build up your stats, which are just your abilities, same as you would in a regular RPG, almost like leveling up. And every wrestler has an overall stat. So, for example, if you start out as Brock Lesnar, you're overall 93, which means you're effectively unbeatable. Well, you're not obviously unbeatable. That would be somebody at 100, and even then you could lose a match. But if you starting as Brock, you have very high strength, you have very high endurance. If you start as Christian, you start out at 69. 69, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
you start out at 69. Oh yeah, and you start out at 69, and you're able to build up his score so that you can put him into a more realistic value. So you would end up maybe getting to an overall score of 84, so that you have a chance against fighting the big boys. But on top of that, every time you win a match, you'll have a superstar score, which is the equivalent of saying how popular you are. So if you're winning matches or doing stuff in the backstage elements, you can increase your superstar points, which then that allows you to challenge for bigger titles. So if you're at a superstar point level of 60, you can challenge for the hardcore title. If you get up to a superstar level of 70, you can challenge for the hardcore title, or you can challenge for the US title or the Intercontinental title, depending on which one it is. And if you get over 85, you're eligible to challenge for the world title of whichever brand you happen to be on. That's another thing we didn't quite mention, is that this game, like the modern WWE at the minute, has a brand split. So you've got a Smackdown side and a Raw side, and there's no real crossover between the two, except for I think there's 2 storylines throughout the game which allows you a crossover. So you can apply, if you're on Raw, you can, if you're over 85, you'll go after the World Heavyweight title. If
That's
you
pretty
are
old.
on, it is pretty old. And if you're on SmackDown, you'll go after the WWE title. And there are certain ways to glitch it to get both main titles on the other show, etc. But the idea is that no matter what level you are at superstar point wise, there will always be something for you to do. But the higher you go, the better the titles you can challenge for, and the better the storylines are going to be. So for every month in the year, there is a storyline built in around chasing the World Heavyweight title, or if you happen to have the World Heavyweight title, there's a storyline built in to defend the World Heavyweight title. So there are lots of little vignettes that will come in, and little storylines. Like there's one, I was playing as my created character once, the very realistic 100 overall Ollie Brady character, and the computer, of course, just as true to life as I could, I made him 6'2", so that he was as close to my own 5'7" as possible. And
see, I don't. It's weird because I kind of feel bad when I put my own height in and I'm 6 feet tall, and then you're just like, oh yeah, I'm 5'7", and then I don't feel so bad.
I don't mind. See, 5'7", like I grew up over here where everyone's not a giant, but every single American friend I have all seem to be 6 foot and 6'2", and I'm like, going,
really?
Oh, come on, stop being so big, guys. Stop.
I
being
mean,
so
I
big.
feel 5'7"'s not pretty short, but kind of short.
5'7" is very short. I mean, like I play sports a lot, and the vast majority of times when I step onto a soccer field, or as I like to call it, a football pitch, I am the shortest person on the pitch. So, I mean, you just get used to it.
What's the average height in Ireland?
It's 5'10".
Oh,
would be
okay.
the average height for a man in Ireland, and
I think
it's
that's kind
getting
of like America.
Yeah, it is getting higher as we go along.
Oh, okay.
In Ireland, yeah. So we're getting to be a taller race.
So you are just short.
I'm just a short guy. I've never had any problem with it. It's the baldness that really annoys me.
The baldness?
Yeah, because I've started losing my hair. I'm in my mid-30s now, and I started losing my hair.
losing my hair, and I'm 22.
Oh, it's not good, George.
No, that's not good.
Yeah, start with the regain now. Or do you call it Rogaine over there?
I don't know.
Oh, well, it's regain. It's called over here.
I don't know anything about that.
It doesn't help you. But anyway, let's go back to SmackDown. Here comes Finn. Forgetting about my shortness and my baldness.
I like how you I like how you tried the product. Oh no!
I did. I
lost
definitely did.
I lost a few strands of hair. I gotta try this hair growing.
I better have a go. But anyway, so I went back, and if you go, I was playing as my 100 overall character with my undefeated record, and I'd never been beaten or anything like this here. Did you know one of these fake I'm having a bit of fun characters? And and they ended up having me lose to I think it was Bubba Ray Dudley.
Awesome.
Who is
much
a mediocre character. Yeah, he's much better than me in real life. He kicked my ass up and down the street.
Well, no, he won. He seems like a nice guy.
He does seem like a nice guy. But he beat me in the storyline mode, and I was raging. But when you're actually playing it through in the game, it makes sense. And you're looking at it, he goes up and he sucks up to Vince McMahon, and Vince McMahon gives him a chance. He knows he can't actually beat you in a one-on-one fight, so somebody else comes out and attacks you pre-match, and then he comes down to the ring and gets a cheap pin on you, and then the storyline is you going out for revenge and trying to regain this loss, and he's getting the upper hand on you throughout the month. And as I said, so it's just a little short 1 month long storyline. And then when you start the next month, if you're still champion, you'll have another little 1 month long storyline to defend the titles. And then they have other individual storylines, like they've got if you're a low level character and you have nothing else going on, they'll give you the opportunity to have a manager, and they'll assign one of the divas to you. Depending on if you're a face, they'll give you an option of whichever face divas are on your side. A good guy. And if you're a heel, which is a bad guy, they'll give you the options of whatever heel divas are there. You were saying when you were playing your game, you only had one option?
What's up?
You were saying when you were playing the game, when they offered you the chance to have a diva manager, you only had one option.
Yeah, I only had Sable.
Mrs. Brock Lesnar.
Mrs. Brock Lesnar?
Yes, she's married to Brock Lesnar.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, in real life.
I didn't know that.
I hope you were very respectful to her. The last thing you want is Big Bad Brock showing up.
Well, I was very respectful to her. She just didn't like my type of respect.
Yeah, I always forget that storyline. She offers you some pie, and the game gives you the option of staring at her body.
I didn't do that.
Asking her what pie she was talking about.
I didn't do that.
Oh, I always look away. Always.
You're a married man.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Back when I was a younger man,
even six foot tall Ollie Brady, overall 100.
Even 6 foot tall Ollie Brady, he was a one woman guy. But yeah, so as I said, each of the months has its own little storyline that goes with it, and then around about September, you get an option to go in to join a faction, which means that you can create a little stable for yourself with 2 or 3 other wrestlers. Or you can go as a solo wrestler. Now, this is a pro tip. If you are starting off and you're a low level character, if you go as a single wrestler and turn down the faction storyline, the next month Vince McMahon will come out and give you a chance to shake his hand. Now, if you shake his hand, if you refuse to shake his hand, you walk away, you get into a feud with Vince, which ends in a cell match at Bad Blood, or it might go on the Survivor Series. If you shake his hand, you can get to be WWE Champion or World Heavyweight Champion by the Survivor Series pay-per-view. So it's the quickest and easiest way to get a low-level character up to World Heavyweight Champion status.
So the thing is, I created the faction, and who did I have? I think I have
Goldberg.
Yeah, Goldberg was one of the newer members, but I started off with Roddy Piper, and then Sean O'Hare was like, "I want to join," and I was like, "I guess, sure." And then it was like, "Goldberg, do you want to be part of this faction?" He's like, "I'm sorry, but I'm not interested." And then he was attacked, and I went to save him, and he's like, "Okay, I'm joining." So then we had a tag team match, and Goldberg wrecked everybody, and we won.
Of course, because he's Goldberg. You were talking about stats. The highest stat you can have for strength is 10. But I am almost certain that hidden somewhere in the game, Goldberg and Brock Lesnar have power stats or strength stats of like 12 or 13.
I don't know.
Because when they give you a power move, you take damage. Like, you take a lot of damage. And they must have some sort of extra strength in there. So having Goldberg in your team is like having instant win if you're fighting most guys.
So I have to ask with this game, does it do the thing of whatever weight class you're in, like the different caps you have for your stats,
Yes.
or do all of them go to 10?
Oh no, you can go to 10, so you can take Rey Mysterio and you can end up with 100 overall and still be a lightweight.
Yeah, but can like strength be 10?
Strength can go up to 10.
Okay, so they changed it in the newer games where it is based on your weight class. So if you're like super heavyweight, like your speed can only go up to like 7 or 6 or something like that.
Oh, I get you, but your strength can go up to 10. Yeah,
stuff like that. I didn't seem
a lot of boxing games have that.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it went like this for this game. It seems like you could put everything to 10.
Yep, you could literally go up to 10. As long as you keep playing, you'll keep building up your XP points.
Because you can technically in the other games, you can still be an overall of 100, but that just means that you hit the stat caps
for each of the cases. Yeah.
Yeah, for your wrestlers.
Well,
So,
in this one, 100 means that you have
everything's
10, 10, 10, 10, 10. The one thing I will say about this game is this was the first game where characters had meaningful differences between them in terms of stats, and I think in later games that kind of went away, because I remember picking up I think it was WWE12, right? WWE 12 had John Cena on the cover, and I remember starting to play a game.
Actually,
as
it
Miz.
was Randy Orton who was on the cover.
Oh, was it Randy Orton? That's
Yes.
actually, that is the one. So
Yes.
I was playing that version of the game, and the Miz had a starting stat of 86.
I think he's like
overall.
a 70 something.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's like in the version of the game I had, it was like, why is he this high? There's no way he should be this high. And I think Edge might have been still in the game, and he was like 89 overall. And obviously John Cena was like 99 overall, or whatever John Cena
5
is.
or something like that.
Shoved down your throat, whatever it was. But as I was playing, I was there going like, there's like at that stage, there's no real difference. I mean, once you get above 80, you might as well be the same as everybody else at that point. Whereas Smackdown Here Comes the Pain, it felt different because you did have lots of wrestlers who were 69. You had guys who were 60. You were playing as Ultimo Dragon, you might be down as low as 63. Sure, Chavo, Guerrero, etc. You could be 65. They're low-level characters, so therefore they have low-level stats, and that made a real difference to the game to me. It's like, these guys aren't as good, and therefore they shouldn't be as highly ranked as the other ones.
It still feels like there's a difference in those newer games too.
I haven't put in as many
it's
hours with
always
them.
like popularity, basically. So I think around that time, Miz was getting some kind of a push, and that's probably why he was in the 80s.
Yeah, he would have been the world champion at that stage, maybe. That was the year. Was that the year The Rock came back and helped him to beat Cena in the main event?
I thought that was 13.
Was that maybe, yeah?
I thought that was
might have been
2013.
13. I knew it was around about that time.
I don't remember.
Yeah, my son was born, so I don't remember either.
Yeah.
I don't remember getting much sleep at all back those days.
Oh man, that sounds like fun.
It's not too bad. You get used to it. Sleep is overrated.
Sure. Sleep is necessary.
Yeah, it pretty much is. Right, so that's season mode.
Yeah, but hold on.
Flawless season mode.
We have to talk about the problems here, where I feel like there are parts in the story where you were supposed to lose, so they ramp up the AI in difficulty, where the AI will do 3 moves on you, and then you are basically almost at the critical point.
It's not 3. I've never had that happen to me, George.
5.
I'm just too good. Just
Bullshit.
too good.
And then they reverse almost everything, because there are multiple matches that I had with Undertaker, and there was like, it was like one of the first times I fought him, like I beat him, but just barely because my stats were low. And then as I was progressing, I had like more matches with him, and he would reverse almost everything I did, and he would throw like 2 or 3 finishers at me within minutes. and it was.
Now, I'd like to
ridiculous.
try and claim that that's very clever AI, where they've
It's not.
mastered your technique
It's
and he's
not.
watching you and they're progressing it, but it
They
probably
just,
isn't.
It's artificial difficulty they added to it.
It probably
and
is
I don't
artificial
like that.
difficulty. Yeah, it's probably the same thing they put in the FIFA games and Madden games, where every now and then they just decide you're losing a match and you don't have much of an option.
It's stupid.
Yeah, speaking of storyline, you went through a story with your own created wrestler, didn't you? Through the
Yes.
season?
I did not finish the
And-
season mode, but yes,
But I believe you won the Royal Rumble,
I did.
which I was very impressed with. I didn't think you were going to win it, because I remember you telling me you just finished
Well, the thing is,
Armageddon pay-per-view.
There was a match before where whoever won, they were able to select their position at the Royal Rumble, and I chose 25 because I'm smart. I think that's a heel move, isn't it? It's a heel move to select 25.
It's not necessarily a heel move. I think the general gist of it is that you're selecting it, and if you happen to be a heel, the manager or the person running it will be face, and you'll get booed for picking it. But if you're a face, you'll get cheered for picking it. So it just
okay.
depends on what they decide you want to
I think
do.
I got cheered for it, but I don't think I'm a face. I don't know.
Well, you might have got. It might have just been. It depends on what show you're on. If Vince McMahon was against you, you're always automatically the default face, because he is the default heel.
Yeah, I think he's against me. Yeah. He is.
So if Vince McMahon's against you, it doesn't matter how bad you are, you will still technically be the face, which is why if you pull heel moves after the match, after you finish a game in this game, you have the option to attack or show respect to somebody, or just to celebrate on your own. And if you are a face and you are facing against somebody who's a heel, even if you select a heel move, which is to attack somebody, you will get cheered by the crowd.
The thing is, though, every time I
fun.
chose to attack, I always lost and I was being attacked.
That's because your superstar points are very low.
Oh, so when are my attacks effective?
If you have a superstar level of, say, 55, is your superstar points 55, and the other guy is, I think it's up to 10 points above you or in your region, you will be able to attack him. If he goes above 10 points stronger than you or higher than you on the superstar level, you will get countered and blocked. And it can happen to just about anybody. I remember playing as Brock, and I had been playing as someone else before, so you get the chance to carry over stats, etc.
Right.
And if you play for a second season, so for example, if you won 60 matches in your first game and you beat Brock in 50 of them, his superstar points level will come down, and at the start of the next season he'll have very low superstar points.
So you played as Brock Lesnar and you tried to attack somebody, and
I tried to attack somebody, and Brock Lesnar is the strongest character in the game, but at that stage he was down at 70s, I think, for superstar points. I tried to attack Stone Cold, who was at 92 or 93 superstar points, and he blocked me and did a stunner on me. So even though I was using the strongest character in the game, it's all to do with your superstar points as to whether or not you get blocked.
Right.
And that's just one of those things you figure out while you're playing along.
Yeah, and you can also go and talk to wrestlers if they are in specific areas, and if you choose the wrong thing, you lose superstar points for no reason.
Yeah,
so
well, the idea is that you can either get punked out by them or you can show respect to them. So it's kind of like a little dialogue option. So you will start the conversation and say, for example, you might start a conversation with Goldberg, and you might tell Goldberg, I'm looking for a strong ally. And if he doesn't think you're strong, he will punk you out and he'll say, no, Goldberg only hangs with the best, and you lose a superstar point. If you're in that option and it says, it gives you the option of saying, I need a strong ally, or it gives you the option of saying, how are you? Then if you just ask him how he is, there will be another dialogue option where you'll get the chance to actually make a superstar point by showing him respect or having him show you respect.
Right.
So there are different ways to win and lose on each of those things. There are some which are fixed that you'll always lose, and there are some which are fixed where you'll always win. For example, like if you're going to talk to Vince, the only way to pick up superstar points is for him to put you in a backstage brawl, and you have to beat the two characters in the backstage brawl, which is, you know, not fun. Especially, I think you have an issue with the AI in certain parts of the backstage involving a motorcycle.
Yeah, so the AI likes to always go on the motorcycle, drive around, ram you, and pick you up and drag you around, and you have to... Oh, I don't even know. It's just like they randomly just get bored of the motorcycle and get off, so...
You can knock them off.
You can, but it's not easy.
It's not easy. So in a situation like that, you can also move between the backstage areas.
Yeah, that's
so
why
I think
just
off the top of my
run
head,
into
there
one
are
of the areas.
5 backstage areas, including you can go out to Times Square and you can climb up on top of the Times Square and get up in a helicopter and all this sort of stuff. They're interesting things. To just add a little element if you happen to be playing a hardcore match or a falls count anywhere match.
But, and that's basic. That's basically the game.
Yeah, that's
this might
effectively
want
it.
to be the deepest dives we've ever done on this podcast, especially considering the recording that we did last night. That got all messed
yes,
up.
where we tended to go on quite a lot of tangents.
It was still fun.
It was still fun. This was a lot more sedentary, and I think it involved less swearing.
What are you fucking talking about?
Fuck you, mate. Do you know,
Fuck you, say?
Did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see what I accidentally did there? Without even thinking about it, as soon as I went to swear, I slipped into an English accent. Alright, mate, go fuck yourself. I don't know why I'm doing it. It's like unintentionally I won't say it in an Irish accent.
Is that a bad thing?
I don't know. I think maybe it means I'm slightly,
That means you want to be British.
English people.
You want to be British.
Hello, hello, hello.
You want to be British
What's all this,
whenever you swear.
When I swear, yeah. Oh fuck.
Oh fuck me.
Oh my god.
Anyway,
That's just revenge for the potato famine.
Yeah, sure. All right then.
Oh, there is one last thing I want to say before we go on. Is
Sure.
the roster for this was huge.
It's pretty.
At the time.
It is pretty big.
And it because of my own affinity with that era of wrestling, I think it might actually have just one of the best, strongest wrestlers in terms of, or rosters in terms of characters. Although you were saying last night that the new ones are very good as well.
WWE 2K17 will have the biggest roster in wrestling games history.
Oh wow!
Yes, it is
Bigger than
even
Fire Pro Wrestling D.
Probably. 2K16 had a really good amount of wrestlers. Even the legends or the older wrestlers, they had a bunch of them, and then they added more with DLC. Like they added Big Boss Man and so.
And you were
so
saying
forth.
they're coming. That game is coming to PC
but
as
2K
well.
Yeah, 2K17 will have the biggest, at least in WWE games history, the biggest roster ever, and I think the list is out there online, and it is just insane.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I might actually pick up one new for the first time in a long time.
Well, you're gonna have to get a new generation console.
That's true. I will have to finally spring for a PlayStation 4. I can't see myself buying an Xbox One.
Yeah, no, that's
I really
weird.
want to play Bloodborne.
That's weird for somebody in the UK to say that. Usually,
That we would.
usually people go after like Xbox, but
They tend to be cheaper over here. Of the
Really?
two consoles, and that's a big.
the PS4
selling
was
point.
much cheaper over here when it first came out.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was. Well, yeah, it was $100 cheaper.
Oh wow! Well, that's a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, at $100, I'm
was-
almost 100% certain I'd be getting the PlayStation 4.
Yeah,
or
it was
PlayStation 3
it was
over there.
400 when it came out here, and the Xbox was 500, which is
Yeah, I think.
which is a great thing. I think the PS2 was cheaper too when it first came out.
Yeah, PlayStation 2 over here when it first released was €350, which is, relatively expensive.
Yeah.
The Xbox One, or sorry, the Xbox, not the Xbox
original
One, the original
Xbox.
I think that was sub 300, but it's so long since I got one. I can't.
So
really
I
remember off the top
I
of
never
my head.
had an Xbox when it first came out, so I have no idea. I got mine for like $20, and then it turned out to be. Well, I have a bunch of Xboxes, but the last one I bought turned out to be like modded. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And did you play many games on the Xbox?
I have a good amount of games. I don't have as many games as I do on PS2, where I have tubs and tubs and tubs of games, but.
And you were buying them. I can't.
That's not a joke.
You were
I
buying
can
them
send you
in
I'll
slipcases and
I
stuff.
can show you pictures later. Well, most of the games I have are in box. So I can I can show you later. I have tons of PS2 games.
Okay, listeners, you heard this first. He is volunteering to send me photographs afterwards. I'm a little bit nervous
I
about
don't
this.
want your photograph.
I nearly started singing a Nickelback song.
No, don't.
Oh, thank God. I stopped myself just in time.
Yeah, I sang probably the best song that has photograph in it.
Yes, you did.
Probably.
Unless there's a Krista Berg song out there with with photograph.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Neither do I. Good old Chris.
Anyway.
Lady in Red. Shut up, Chris. Okay, so do you want to give your overall verdict of the game?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good game. Like how I like to kind of rate the game is by pricing, and we talked about this last night. I've seen copies go from $5.95 loose to $76 plus $3.50 shipping. $3.50 shipping.
And even
So-
after a day after hearing that, I cannot believe anyone would pay
I can't
$76.
either. So that was one
And
selling.
I love this game.
That was one
but
selling.
I would not pay $76.
Yeah, and then the selling below that was like 56, and then it was like 40. So the median price for this game is like $10 to $20, but I've seen it sold for $5.95 to $76.
And after I realized that we were going to be doing this game, I took out my copy, I put it in the PlayStation 2, and it froze at the second pay-per-view. So I went down to the local GameStop and picked it up for €2, which is the equivalent of $2, like 40 cents or something.
So you have GameStops over there,
We have GameStops over here.
and they
yeah.
sell older games on the shelves.
Yeah, you
That's
have
fucking
at the minute
weird.
GameStop has just come to the end, or maybe has already finished with PlayStation 2 games, but it will have PlayStation 3 and Xbox games, tons and tons of those.
Over
then
here
we have another.
in the US.
Yeah,
Over here in the US, I'm sorry, there's lag, so if I ever talk over you, it's probably because I thought you were done talking.
no, it's okay, it's no problem. He's so rude.
Shut the fuck up. The thing is, GameStop over here does not sell older games in stores, but they do it through their website.
All right.
So anything older than Xbox 360 is online. So the thing is, like, you should never buy older games from GameStop unless it's like at the store and they're charging you like $2. Because at the store you can see the condition in it that it's in, and it's probably cheaper that way anyway. But GameStop online is like they have a stock image of the game, and then like you never know if the sticker's messed up or like, you know, pertaining to like cartridges and stuff, and sometimes the prices are just too much. And so I usually stay away from GameStop even for new games. Like I'll go to Amazon if I want to get a new game.
We have a second range of shops called CEX, which stands for Computer and Entertainment Exchange.
Right.
But everyone just calls it the Sex Shop, CEX.
I love it. I
And,
want to move to
yeah.
Ireland now.
Exactly. So you can go down to the Sex Shop and you can buy PlayStation games, PlayStation 2 games, You can buy original Xbox games, Xbox 360 games. They'll do DVDs, stuff like that there in the shop.
Do you have Game over there in Ireland or no?
We used to have Game. I think Games might all be defunct. It's the same as HMV are gone from Ireland now as well. That was another big chain store. Electronics Boutique is gone. Virgin Megastores are gone.
Well, EB is owned by GameStop. EB still functions in some places in the US, but there are more and more cases of them closing down because they are literally GameStops with a different name. They were functioning a lot in Canada because there was no GameStop, so it was just EB over there. And then GameStop finally started changing EB into the brand of GameStop, but they have been the same store for a few years, well, a little longer than a few years now.
I did not know that. I didn't realize that they were the same overall
and
company.
They also,
that would explain why they disappeared quickly here.
Right, they also bought out, I don't think this was a company you had over there, but we used to have a chain called Funkoland, and they were bought out by GameStop in, I want to say, the early 2000s or something like that. So, and the thing is, Funkoland had the magazine Game Informer, and when GameStop bought them out, now they own it. So Game Informer has been around for a while.
Yeah, Game Informers, you can actually buy the magazine over here.
Yeah.
You'd have to get it. It'd be in a specialist shop. So, for example, any Irish listeners out there, you pick it up in Eason's, but you're not going to pick it up in your local newsagents. Eason's would be our specialty or large.
I don't think you could do that either. I think you only get them from GameStops and subscriptions from GameStop.
Oh, fantastic.
So, yeah. I think. I know it used to be on, like, newsstands and stuff.
The only games magazine I was ever a subscriber to was coincidentally called PlayStation Power. And it was a British-only magazine.
Somebody was telling me about that, and I did not know. I was not aware of that being a thing.
Yeah, it was back in the day. It was, I'm assuming it was a riff on the old Nintendo Power magazines.
I guess.
And a lot of the guys who worked on it, I'm not sure if this, I'm assuming it's over in the States. There's a magazine called Games TM. And Games TM, a lot of the guys who work on that, a lot of the writers, the staff writers, would have been PlayStation Power staff writers back in the day. It's a quality magazine. It's like Edge, the magazine.
Oh, okay.
Do you guys have Edge?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's like a gaming magazine aimed at adults as opposed to aimed at teenagers.
It's supposed to be edgy.
Edgy. Just the waveform that showed up on Audacity when I just said edgy looks like an F-15. So I know I want to say it all the time.
Well done. Anyway, so if you could find this game for, I'd say I'd probably pay up to $20 for this game.
Oh yeah, if you can get it for $20,
it's a good game for that price.
Very fun game. Now, I've been making jokes about it being flawless. I've been saying that it's the best wrestling game I've ever played,
It's the second night I keep hearing flawless.
It has issues. If you can get over those issues, and if you happen to be, for example, if you were a man in your mid-35s or a lady in your mid-35s who happens to be a wrestling fan, you will, and I can't see how you would not enjoy this game. It will have classic storylines that you're used to. It will have the wrestlers you're used to, and it has a kind of fast, fun, arcadey style quality to the gameplay, which is very endearing. So I enjoy it. I'm not going to actually say it's flawless, but it is a very good wrestling game, and it is one of the top tier wrestling games I've ever played.
It's flawful.
So I would highly recommend it. It's flawful, yes.
It's not flawless, it's flawful.
Flawful.
Yeah. How do I undisable it?
That is a reference to my lack of ability in computers, where I had to disable something earlier, and then I needed to re-enable it or just enable it, and I asked George, so how do I go about undisabling this? As that laughter he is doing right now is real, because he's just sitting there going, "This man is a disaster," as he uses a broken computer after last night using a computer that had Windows Vista on it. And didn't even realize it was Windows Vista until George saw a screenshot and says, "Are you using Windows Vista?"
Well, it was so weird because you shared your screen on Skype, and the first thing that I noticed wasn't that it was Windows Vista, is that the image was really just fucked up streaming into me. Like, it was like, it was like diagonally stretched out, and it was like in black and white, and it was like a duplicate image, and like, what the fuck is going on here? And then I noticed it was Windows Vista.
And then you said to yourself, what sort of technology do they have in Ireland? Powered by potatoes.
It's like, is his hamster like trying to run on the wheel while it's dying? Like, what's going on?
Run faster, Willy, run faster.
Whoa, I said hamster.
Yeah, I call my hamster Willy.
Then what do you call your Willy?
I call it Jeff.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
Hi, my name is Jeff.
Anyway, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we're done. I think we've come to the end. We've pushed it out.
An end of an era. I mean, what?
Yeah, it was good. Oh, thanks very much. This has been brilliant, George. I think we covered the game in much greater detail.
I will try to get some clips out of our failed attempt.
Oh, well, the failed attempt was failed. If we could find, we should have mentioned Greg a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it went pretty well for a while, and then the issues just arise. So.
Too many issues.
Anyway, thanks for listening. We have a Patreon if you would like to back us. That is patreon.com, patreon.com/theboxfort, THEBOXFORT. We have a bunch of goals on there. Like, one of them is a Pokemon retrospective that Greg and I will do on, I guess we're just going to put that on the Boxfort podcast. And I really want to do that because there's a lot of games, and Greg has experience with, like, none of them, but he agreed to do it. So that will be fun. And what else is there?
I believe there's an N-Gage related one.
There's one where I will play N-Gage games. Yes. So there's stuff like that, and we have a decent amount of reward tiers, so don't you fret. If you think about supporting us, please look at the page. We are on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. So there's a few places that you find us, but it's also on my website, which is theboxfort.net, THEBOXFORT.net. That's basically where the podcasts are being hosted, but there is basically a landing page that we have that is teboxfort.com, TEHBOXFORT.com, and that is not finished, but it's somewhere. It is somewhere in space. We have a Facebook group. You can look up PlayStation Power. You should be able to find it. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Chief, at MISTURCHEEF. And sometimes I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mr. Chief, spelled the same way. And eventually we, or I, or whatever, somebody will go on my Mixlr account and stream things. Mixlr is kind of like Twitch, but with audio. So it's like internet radio when people talk, in a way. It's mixlr.com/Derpkin, DERPKITTEN, or you could just go on to boxword.com and the Mixlr player is on there. I think that's about it for me. Ollie, where can we find you other than the garbage can you live in?
Oh, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Garbage can known as Sligo in County Ireland, County Sligo in Ireland.
Sure.
I don't really do much more than this here. I just happen to be a fan of the show, and I got talking to Greg, and we happened to be talking about games, and I said I'm a big fan of wrestling and wrestling games, and he said that you were also a big fan of wrestling game and invited me on to talk about it. So I'm delighted. I was going to say this is the first podcast I've ever done, but this is the second podcast I've ever done because I did one last night and then somehow managed to make a big pile of errors that led to it not recording.
Yeah, something happened.
Or something not working particularly well.
We'll get that out as an extra.
It may have been the greatest of all time, I've heard.
Yeah,
Flawless.
It's a good
Flawless
podcast.
was used an awful lot to describe my performance.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, I'm on Facebook. My name is Ollie Brady. I tend not to be on quite a lot, but if anyone wants to feel free to send me a message and chat away. I love meeting new people and having conversations about computer games, etc. I'd love to be back on some other time.
He means video games.
Computer games, video games. I do come from Europe. Let me see. I think
UK.
Well, no, I'm not from
the UK. The UK isn't famous.
I am from Ireland. Slightly
yes. You're from the Republic of Ireland.
Don't mention the war.
I didn't say anything about a war.
Thank God. Yeah, and I hope to be back. I think we mentioned last night that I might go on the SNES podcast to force George to play Earthworm Jim 2.
Oh no.
I know you love the platformers, George.
We talked about this last night.
It is a genuinely funny and witty game if you're into that kind of humour.
We'll see.
We will. And thanks very much for allowing me to come on, and thanks very much for putting up with all of my
thanks for coming on.
Technical foibles.
Goodbye.
Does that look okay as it is at the minute?
What's that?
Does everything look okay with your waveforms on your side?
Yeah, why?
I'm just making sure. I'm just exporting this audio and saving it as George 2.
Well, I'm not done with the podcast yet.
Oh, are we? Oh, sorry. I thought that's what you meant when you said we're done.
Well,
I've stopped at this.
There's a bunch of stuff I still need to cover.
Okay, well, you keep going, and if you could cut this bit out where I looked and sound like a complete idiot, that would be fun. Or feel free to leave it in, mind.